Okay. Welcome everybody to today's Q&A session with Ram, Pappu and Mr. Arul Thomas from the Mushroom Fund. So we're going to talk about Mission Samriddhi, their work, the Mushroom Fund that has been set up in partnership with Mission Samriddhi and Rangde. We're going to talk about the impact of our work together, and we're going to talk about a lot of issues that we are trying to tackle on the ground, and we will tell you all the stories and anecdotes that are going on with communities that are really working hard to increase their income, to have sustainable sources of income, and to gain better livelihood. So joining us today are Mr. Ram Pappu. He is the program director at Mission Samriddhi. And we also have with us Mr. Arul Thomas, and he is a very successful mushroom entrepreneur who's worked very closely with mushroom farmers in Tamil Nadu. So what we are going to do is I will hand it over to Ram to introduce Mission Samriddhi to all of you and to tell us a little bit about the origin of Mission Samriddhi, what they've been up to, and in what context we can expect to hear from them in the future as well. So Ram, welcome, and we'd love to hear from you.
Oh, thank you, Sukada, for this opportunity. I'm really thankful to all our friends, social investors. It's amazing when I see them, the numbers 590, 600 people, all coming forward and investing in this fund. I really thank them. I appreciate them for being here. It just shows their good intent. So Mission Samriddhi is, we are a social impact enterprise. Our brand name is called Mission Samriddhi. Many of you may know Mr. Arun Jain from Polaris Software, right? It was a big software company, started in Chennai in 93. Arun came from Delhi and they were working with banks. And Polaris became a large company. And way back in 96, when there was no CSR and all that time they started an initiative called Ullas Trust, which was to shape the minds of adolescent children in government schools, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th class boys and girls, how you can shape their thinking and making them more articulate, give them self-confidence, mentoring them with a hand on their shoulder. That initiative went on, and now it is scaled across to 18 lakh children across the country, with a lot of partners like JP Morgan and other customers who adopted that Ullas program with Corporation School Government. Now, way back in, so that program, really, it's all about shaping the mindsets and developing people. In 2016, when Arun sold Polaris to Virtusa, and he wanted to do something more for the well-being and transformation of rural India. To be honest, the intent was good, but we really didn't know. And I'm not a social development person. I was working in IBM Corporation for many years in I think Rajendra said he was in Dubai, right? In the Middle East. So I worked in the Middle East. I worked in America, Canada. And I came back to India in 2014-15. And I was volunteering for a foundation where I was working with the children in many states. Jawahar Navodaya Vidya schools, I would do workshops for them, empowerment workshops. I met with Arun in 2016. We wanted to work in rural transformation. And for the first 2 years, so Mission Samriddhi was formed in November 2016. We were gathering a lot of understanding of rural India, first of all. What are the issues? What are the challenges? So we spoke to many NGOs, spoke to many bureaucrats, we did a lot of design thinking workshops. And eventually, a model for transforming a cluster of villages evolved. So today, what we do, we have a framework for the holistic development of a cluster of villages. Okay, not one village, a cluster, maybe 10 villages. So maybe 5 or 6 panchayats together form a cluster. And we want to work for the holistic development of this cluster, personal development. How can we change the leadership of the youth, the mindsets of the people, bring about the change for their own well-being? Social development, and there are so many aspects in social development, whether it's health, education, gender equality, so many sub-elements. Economic development, so personal development, social development, economic development. How can we improve the income and productivity of a small marginal farmers? How can we work with self-help groups? How can we work with artisans? How can we work with farmer producer companies? Economic development, right? Then ecological development. How are we protecting the resources? ऐसे कि बोलते हैं कि जल, जंगल, जमीन, the water, the solid liquid waste management, the water conservation, pollution. So ecological development. And number 5 was institutional development. We learned that many NGOs have get in, but are not able to come out, and they'll be stuck there for many years together. The idea was, can we learn from this and build the institutions in the villages? There are institutions constitutionally recognized. The Gram Panchayat and the Gram Sabha are constitutional bodies. So if you can stand up the committees, empower the committees, because many of them don't know the roles, responsibility, they don't know the Panchayat Act, they don't know what power lies in their hands. So if that empowerment happens, then they know what they're eligible for, what lift irrigation schemes, what government schemes are available for widow pensions, for health. If they're able to understand all that, build their own Gram Panchayat development plan with full knowledge, right? Because otherwise, most of the time it's coming from somebody in the district and they put rubber stamp, okay, last year 10% to be that, and that's it. And they don't have a say in their own destiny. So if you're able to work with the panchayats and the Gram Sabhas, they understand what the role is, then you're strengthening the institution. So this is the model. And in all this, there are different partners who have solved the different sub-elements. Somebody has done very good work in school education. Somebody has done very good work in organic. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. In India, there is no problem that we've not been solved by somebody at some decent level of scale. So we were able to wire everything together into this framework, which we call community development framework, and take this whole framework into the cluster called cluster development program. That's all you need to remember from my talk today. A framework for holistic development, going into the cluster development program. And who does a cluster? There are partners, NGOs who are very strong in certain areas, who've been working, have got the credibility of the local communities. So with them, we have engaged, we have funded them for a 3-year program, and we are trying to bring holistic development into that cluster of villages. So this is what we're doing. Yeah? This is Mission Samriddhi for you.
Okay.
And we are working today in 8 states. We are working in about 100 clusters, about 500 panchayats. And today we are covering a population of 11 lakh people. Almost 300,000 households are being covered under this cluster development program in more than 8 states. And this is thanks to the partnerships. And I don't take credit for this co-creating the model. It was co-created with partners, with IAS officers, with NGOs, everyone coming together through a proper design thinking approach. So the credit goes to the people who all came together, and we just were like sponges, taking out the essence from all of them and putting the knowledge of everybody into a certain framework. And this is how this model is growing. And we want to go into 15 states in this coming year, this cluster development program, and eventually want to partner with the state governments in trying to take the holistic development model forward.
Superb, superb. So the way one can think of Mission Samriddhi is like a super connector and of people and partners, and
you can say that.
Yeah, and bringing in a lot of change at cluster level so that it's easier to scale and reach.
And our mantra is celebrate, connect, and catalyze.
Oh, wow.
Celebrate the good work being done by all the great people. There are academic institutions, there are NGOs. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Celebrate the good work, connect people together, and catalyze wherever necessary. And this instance, what we are talking today, Mushroom Fund, is an instance of catalyzing it. We are not a Tata Trust or with huge thousands and thousands of crores of budget. But if you're able to bring a certain model and catalyze it and bring it to a certain scale, and then go and work with the state government, or then go into a larger foundation like Bill and Melinda Gates and tell them that, hey, this is working, this is how it's been catalyzed, then it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So this is the way we are working.
Superb. Thanks so much for that, Ram. We'll just quickly check if Mr. Arul is able to hear us. Arul, are you there? Are you able to?
Yes, madam.
Yes.
Yes, madam.
So if you could just introduce yourself and your experience with mushroom farming for all our audience.
Okay, madam. My name is Arul Thomas. I was studied in BSc Biotechnology. From 2007 onwards, I started in the mushroom business. I would say almost 14 years I experienced this project only. Initially, I started a mushroom very little bit. Behind the house.
Okay.
Only 200 square feet I started the mushroom project. Now it's a 1 acres.
Wow.
It's a big project. Initially, I started very small thing only, but the mushroom seed, I cannot prepare initially. I want to go, initially I go to the agriculture department in a district or otherwise in an agriculture college. From that I can buy it the mushroom seed. Afterward, I started after the 2 years, I started only mushroom spawn production unit in big level. Now, every day I produce minimum 500 packets per day. Now we are selling to the farmers. We train the farmers and the buyback from the mushroom farmers.
Okay.
Now we are doing the mushroom kitchen. I think a mushroom hotel.
Yes, please go ahead. Yes.
We are selling we are selling the fresh mushroom also, and we used to keep the mushroom hotels, mushroom soup, mushroom biryani, mushroom sandwich, mushroom burger. So many are 16 varieties we are doing now. So this is type of we are doing the mushroom business.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Arul. So actually, for those who are joining us today, Mr. Arul is a great example of a successful mushroom entrepreneur. As you heard from him, he started from a very small setup right behind his house. And today he has an acre huge worth of mushroom setup. And not only does he grow mushroom, he also produces mushroom seeds, and he also buys back from other local mushroom farmers. So he's a wonderful enabler of the mushroom economy that we are going to talk about, which the fund addresses in a district called Namakkal in Tamil Nadu. So we're coming back to you, Ram. We'd love to speak about this mushroom fund that we've put together with Mission Samriddhi. So why do you think there was a need for a fund like this? What is the possible impact? And, what is the wonderful work we can enable through this fund?
So, Sukhita, as I go back to our model, community development framework, and D3, D1 personal, D2, so D3 economic development. And in economic development, D31 is small and marginal farmers. D31 is small and marginal farmers. Now, we will always be looking out for initiatives how to enhance income of the small and marginal farmers, right? There are various challenges. Rain-fed farmers, they'll not be able to farm throughout the year, water scarcity and so on. So how do you increase the income of the small and marginal farmers? And farmers in Maharashtra will have different challenges, in UP will have different challenges. Now, a cluster development program is happening in Tamil Nadu. We are working in 9 clusters in 8 districts. Okay, so in 45 panchayats we're working. So we know the problems that income levels are low, we have to enhance. So we are always scouting for alternatives. So somewhere, God's grace, this whole thing of celebrate, connect, catalyze, somebody connected, said that this mushroom entrepreneur is there, SKT Agro Foods, Arul Thomas. And I think this happened during COVID time, and we met up in Chennai. He was kind enough to give us nice packets of Milky Way mushrooms. These are wonderful mushrooms. They've got more protein content, less water, and they're much in demand. So we were, trying to see how to make this happen in our clusters. How can we work with farmers? How can we, make this whole mushroom business happen? So we understood the model, how the spawn will have to be supplied, how a shed will have to be built, and this Arul is very enterprising that he's got the district collectors in many districts who have now bought onto his model, and the government is funding through a government order. They fund the shed. The most important thing is creating that shed. Yeah. And once you create that shed and the spawn is given to them, and this whole process starts off, and within a cyclical time of the mushrooms come, and he's doing the buyback of the mushrooms. As he said, he supplies to cafes and, Kerala. There's a big demand for all that, even exporting all that, right? So he's doing all that. But the problem happened for us that the farmers will have no money to give money for building the shed. So this is that's everywhere the government has got a good intent, but if you don't give them the money, the funding required for building the shed. So there's two things. One is a asset. The shed has to be built, for which you need financing. And then you need working capital to finance the whole mushroom business. So we understood it, but who will give the money for the thing? And so far he's been struggling at his own level to get funds here and there. So we approached even the regional bank. Sridhar, my program director, is also there in this. Tamil Nadu director is also there in this meeting today. And we approached local banks in Salem. We were not heading anywhere. Fortunately, we came across Rangde. Rangde, we were already working with Rangde in different initiatives earlier. So when we brought it up to Ram of Rangde, and we said, hey, can you look at Rangde catalyzing this initiative?
Right.
And provide the bridge fund, because the bridge fund is required for building the asset. Once it is done, the government will reimburse the money to you after 3 or 4 months. When had they given you the money upfront, there would have been no need for Rangde. Everything would have gone on. Life would have been nice. But that's the way it is. So somebody has to do the bridge funding, right, and provide them the working capital. And this is how we approached Rangde. This is how we wanted to do it with Rangde. And we want to take a pilot, make this work. And then I'm still saying that there's no perfect answer. This is working. We are trying our best foot to make this happen, and it will work out. But at a larger scale, maybe we should influence the state policy to just make a change. Why don't you give them the money up ahead? Because Rangde Mission Samriddhi will never be able to work with 10 lakh farmers and create this kind of a thing. We need the state's assistance. Right. We need state financing to come in and help to create that initial infrastructure, right? So yes, we can do pilots, we can make it to scale at a certain level, but we need a higher level of policy change to happen. So this is how the Mushroom Fund happened. And this is how we're working with 50, although we looked at 100, we're looking at 50, 40 farmers now. We want to make it a success, and then we'll see how to scale it further.
Right.
Because as I said, Namakkal is only one cluster.
Yes.
We are working in 9 clusters in 8 districts. So if this works well here, why can't we take it to other clusters and enable other farmers in the clusters?
Absolutely.
This is the idea.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, different districts have different challenges for the farmers in those places. So if you could, detail it a little bit for us, like farmers in Namakkal, what are the issues they are facing, and, what are the current challenges they are struggling against?
See, I think my understanding has been that broadly, there will be 2 kinds of issues. One is a thematic knowledge issues on if you want to do something like mushroom, you need a Arul Thomas or you need an expert to tell them, hey, this is the kind of spawn that you require. This is the life cycle. This is the conditions. This is how you need to do it at this temperature and all that. That entire process, that entire knowledge has to be trained. And that's why we need experts like Arul Thomas and his team who will be able to provide that. And I think the bigger challenge is, it's not just Namakkal or other places, right? The farmers in the country for the last 70 years or many, many years, they are the biggest risk takers. Our farmers are expected to take the risk. They're expected to do marketing. They're expected to do production. They're expected to do, finance themselves. They're expected to provide insurance for themselves, everything, right?
Yeah.
And yet they never get the fair prices. MSP and all what we talk about is only for a few commodities.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're expected to solve all the problems themselves, right? Without any hand-holding, unfortunately. Now, if you're able to at least, bring these farmers together in a collective, like a farmers producer company, there is more strength in unity. There is more strength in bargaining when it comes to able to get better seeds, better prices. There's more strength in getting better prices for this product and produce and value added when they're part of a FPC. So that can happen. But the challenges typically are in the form of resources, the knowledge, most importantly, working capital. How much ever you say, the issue of small farmers face, they're not organized and they will never be able to get the working capital when they need it. There will be small time money lenders. There will be other people who will be lending to them at exorbitant rates, and they fall into that debt trap.
Yeah.
Right. So there are 5 or 6 major challenges, and this is, I'm saying, challenges of small farmers, not only in Namakkal, but in many parts of India. Sure. Right. They will have working capital. They will have market linkage challenges because they're producing at small level. They will have issues with, expertise, agronomy, or even technical expertise. Right. And obviously, like I said, and because they're small farmers, they don't have the strength of collective. They will be constrained by that. If you're able to solve all these 5 problems at the same time, then there is a good hope that you can collectivize the farmers, and somebody has to handhold them. Somebody with like a non-profit has to handhold them with no vested interest to handhold them initially and so that then they know how to stand up by themselves. And if they're FPC, they can file their own compliance statements, and they can have because they need to be trained. Once they're trained on how to maintain their own accounts, maintain their own compliance statement, then they are good enough. And this is happening with many FPCs in the country. And this is what eventually we want to do with our farmers here also.
Wonderful. So I think I'll go back to Arul now. Arul, if you could tell us, why should small farmers take up mushroom farming? Like, what is the advantage, and what is the change you are seeing on the ground? Like, if somebody has taken up mushroom farming, what is the growth of income they have had for themselves, or what is the positive effect in their life after they have taken up mushroom farming?
Hello.
Yes.
Answer.
அருள், அவங்க என்ன கேக்குறாங்கன்னா இப்போ ஃபார்மர்ஸ் ஏன் மஷ்ரூம் ஃபார்மிங் எடுக்கணும்? இப்போ மஷ்ரூம் பண்ணீங்கன்னா என்ன அட்வான்டேஜ்? அவங்க வருமானத்துல, அவங்க இன்கம் லெவல்ல எவ்வளவு இன்க்ரீஸ் ஆகும்? இப்போ அவங்க கரண்டா எவ்வளவு ஏர்ன் பண்றாங்க? அதுக்கு மேல இப்போ மஷ்ரூம் பண்ணீங்கன்னா அதுக்கு எவ்வளவு இன்கம் என்ஹான்ஸ்மெண்ட் ஆகும்? அது நீங்க எப்படி ஏன் எடுத்தீங்க? எப்படி அந்த மாதிரி இன்கம் என்ஹான்ஸ்மெண்ட் என்ன மாதிரி இன்கம் என்ஹான்ஸ்மெண்ட் வருது? எப்படி கொடுக்குறீங்க? அதான் கேக்குறாங்க.
ஓகே. பட் இந்த நாமக்கல் டிஸ்ட்ரிக்ட்ல நான் சர்வே பண்ண இடத்துல நான் தமிழ்ல சொல்லிடுறேன் சார், நீங்க எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணிடுங்க சார்.
கண்டிப்பா.
நாமக்கல் டிஸ்ட்ரிக்ட்ல இங்க நிறைய பேரு மாடை வச்சுதான் எல்லாமே மில்க் ப்ரொடக்ஷன் பண்ணி கொடுத்துட்டு இருக்காங்க. பட் பாத்தீங்கன்னா நீங்க மஷ்ரூம்ல யாருமே பண்றது, மற்ற விவசாயங்கள் எல்லாருமே அக்ரிகல்ச்சர் லேண்ட் பொதுவா பாத்தீங்கன்னா மினிமம் 2 acres மினிமம் வேணும். அதுக்கு வாட்டர் ஃபெசிலிட்டி வேணும், கரண்ட் எலக்ட்ரிசிட்டி ஃபெசிலிட்டி வேணும். சோ மினிமம் 2 acres இருந்தா தான் ஒரு அக்ரிகல்ச்சர் பிசினஸ் எக்கனாமிக்கா டெவலப் பண்ண முடியும் ஒரு ஃபார்மர்ஸ், எனி சிங்கிள் ஃபார்மர்ஸ். பட் நான் என்ன சொல்றேன்னா, இந்த மஷ்ரூம் ஏன் நம்ம எடுக்கிறோம்னா, இந்த மஷ்ரூம்ல மினிமம் 3 cents இடம் இருந்தாலே போதும். மஷ்ரூம் ஃபார்மிங்க்கு only 3 cents enough to cultivate mushroom farm.
Correct.
So கிடையாது. வாட்டர் பாத்தீங்கன்னா வெரி 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 லெஸ் than மினிமம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு 150 liters per day enough to cultivate the mushroom. So இந்த மாதிரி இருக்கு. அப்ப 3 centsல per month மினிமம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா 24,000 to 25,000 earn பண்றதுக்குள்ள கெப்பாசிட்டி நம்ம உருவாக்கி கொடுக்கிறோம். எதனால இதை சூஸ் பண்ணோம்னா, சில பேருக்கு பெரிய பெரிய ஃபார்மர்ஸ்க்கு லேண்ட் இருக்கு, இது பெரிய லேண்ட் இருக்கும். பட் நாங்க இன்னைக்குள்ள விவசாய கூலிகள் இருக்காங்களே, அவங்களுக்கு செல்ஃப் எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட் இப்ப கிடையாது. அப்ப அவங்களுடைய வீட்டுக்கு பின்புறமா ஒரு 3 cent இடம் இருக்கும், கண்டிப்பா 3 cent இடமா இருக்கு. சோ அந்த இடத்துக்குள்ள அவங்களுடைய ஒரு அக்ரிகல்ச்சர், அதாவது அலைடு அக்ரிகல்ச்சர் ஆக்டிவிட்டியை நம்ம டெவலப் பண்ணி ஒரு நியூ ஆண்டர்பிரனர் அவங்க உருவாக்க முடியும், செல்ஃப் எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட் உருவாக்க முடியும். இதுதான் என்னோட கான்செப்ட்.
Thank you, Arul. So Sukada, what he's saying, there are two things essentially. Most farmers, small farmers, will have land holdings of around 2 acres.
Yeah.
Now, if you even want to make a viable business farming, viable farming for 2 acres, you need to have number of factors coming in your favor. You need to have water, electricity, you need to have working capital, and so on. As I said earlier, right? These are challenges. Still, they don't have. You have to have good quality seeds, and if you want to do, and still many people are doing chemical farming. The cost of inputs in terms of fertilizers, finally there's no profit in farming. So now to enhance their income from these 2 acres, mushroom farming can be a very good viable proposition, because in a small patch of land, he's saying 3 cents of land, this is very small, 300 to 400 square feet of land, you can actually do mushroom cultivation, which can actually potentially bring up to, he says, 24,000 rupees per month. Now, we are not even going to that. We are just saying if the farmer's income can go up to 12 to 15,000 rupees additional per month, it will be a great relief. So the second point, what he was saying is landless people, landless farmers, people who are landless, who don't have land, but who are working as agricultural labor.
Yeah.
Now, if they have to be standing up on their own feet, and they have, wherever they live, just behind where they're living, in their own little piece of land where they live, you can actually do this profitable mushroom cultivation, right? You can build a shed, you can go through the whole process, and they can easily earn up to 12 to 15,000 rupees per month, which is a great income enhancement for them. So this is what he's trying to say. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Arul. And I think what we will do is we'll just open up the forum for some questions. So from our audience, any of our social investors, if you have a question please feel free to put it in the chat box. I will ask you a question on your behalf, or you can just press the raise hand button and you can unmute yourself to ask a question. So we'll ask a couple more questions about the fund and about the work. So yeah, so I think Ram, one question from Venance is mushroom farming good for the environment?
Wonderful. So let's ask the expert, Arul Thomas. Arul, அவங்க கேக்குறாங்க mushroom farming பண்ணானா நம்ம environment what is the Tamil word for environment, Sridhar?
சுற்றுச்சூழல்.
என்வாயர்மெண்ட்க்கு நல்லதா இல்லனா இது என்வாயர்மெண்ட்க்கு ஏதாவது நெகட்டிவ் இம்பாக்ட் இருக்குமா? நீங்க சொல்லுங்க.
இப்ப இங்க மஷ்ரூம் கல்டிவேஷன் பண்றது மெயின் திங் ரா மெட்டீரியல் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா பேடி ஸ்ட்ரா.
கரெக்ட்.
பேடி ஸ்ட்ரா. இப்ப சீசன் டயத்துல பாத்தீங்கன்னா பேடி ஸ்ட்ரா எல்லாமே பர்ன் பண்ணிடுவாங்க.
கரெக்ட்.
ஏன்னா அந்த பர்ன் பண்றதுனால சாயிலோட இது போயிடும், டஸ்ட்ராய் ஆயிரும். அப்ப அதாவது நம்ம என்வரான்மெண்டல் பொல்யூஷன் பொல்யூஷன் கண்ட்ரோல் இது பாதிக்கப்படுது. சோ ஃப்ரம் த ரா மெட்டீரியல் வச்சு நம்ம மஷ்ரூம் கல்டிவேஷன் ஈஸியா கொண்டு வந்துடலாம். அப்ப நம்மளுடைய மஷ்ரூம்ல வந்து எந்த ஒரு என்வரான்மெண்டல் பொல்யூஷன் கிடையாது.
ஏன்னா first of all there is no chemical at all. There are no chemicals.
ஆமா, நோ
The only
கெமிக்கல்.
raw material வந்து paddy straw தான் யூஸ் பண்றோம். இப்போ நார்த்ல பஞ்சாப்ல paddy straw வந்து stubble burning பண்ணிட்டு environmental pollution ஆகுது. அதெல்லாம் ஒண்ணுமே ஆக மாட்டேங்குது. இங்க அந்த paddy straw யூஸ் பண்ணிட்டு அந்த யூஸ் ஆத paddy straw என்ன பண்ணுவீங்க? அத மல்ச்சிங் ஆக போட்டுடுவீங்களா ஃபீல்ட்ல? அதாவது
ஃபீல்ட்ல வந்து ஃபார்மிங் ஃபீல்ட்ல வந்து நம்ம வந்து ஒரு உரமா கொடுத்துடலாம் சார். ஃபுல்லா ஆமா ஆமா
நியூட்ரிஷன் கொடுக்கலாம். So Sukada, what he's saying is, and the other person I think who asked this question is actually a very environment friendly mechanism of growing mushrooms. Mushroom is actually good for the environment because first of all there's no chemical. You're using the paddy straw for the spawn to be germinating, and all the final after mushrooms are grown, the leftover paddy straw is put back in the farmer's field as mulching, as natural bio fertilizer for the plants to grow, for the crops to grow.
Okay, interesting. Very nice. We have another question from Rajendra. What are the risks involved for farmers in mushroom farming in terms of farming and marketing?
Farmers
question பூச்சனீங்கல அவங்க சொல்றாங்க என்ன ரிஸ்க் இருக்கும் farming mushroom farmerக்கு specifically marketingல?
Yes. இப்போ ஃபார்மிங்ல பாத்தீங்கன்னா என்ன ரிஸ்க் இருக்குன்னா ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஆஃப் ஆல் என்ன பண்ணா ஃபார்மிங்ல வந்து கரெக்டா மாய்ஸ்சர் வந்து நம்ம எல்லாம் ப்ரிப்பேர் பண்ணணும். ஒரு பெட் ப்ரிப்பரேஷன் பண்றது அதோட வழிமுறைகள் கரெக்டா கடைபிடிக்கணும்னா ஒண்ணு வைக்கோல் வந்து ஃபுல் கிளீனா இருக்கணும். அது மழையை நனைஞ்சோ ரொம்ப டஸ்டர்ட் ஆகியோ இல்ல ஒரு ஃபார்மிங்ல வந்து கிளீனா கொண்டு வரக்கூடாது. அது வேற ஃபங்கலை உருவாக்கும். அது ஃபார்மிங்லயே வந்து ட்ரை பண்ணி வைக்கோல் அப்படி எடுத்துட்டு வரணும். ஸோ அதுல ஏதாவது மிஸ்டேக் இருந்தா கண்டிப்பா ரிஸ்க் இருக்குது. செகண்ட் என்னன்னா நம்மளுடைய ஃபார்மிங்ல ஒர்க் பண்ண போயில சுத்தமா கிளீனா இருக்கணும். இப்போ நம்ம எல்லாமே பாத்தீங்கன்னா ஆஃப்டர் COVID-19 அப்புறம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா எல்லாமே ஹேண்டை வந்து வாஷ் பண்ணிக்கிடுவாங்க. எல்லாமே ஸ்பிரிட் அப்ளை பண்ணுவாங்க. பட் எங்களுக்கு எப்படின்னா மஷ்ரூம்ல எல்லாமே ஃபார்மர்ஸ் ஸ்பிரிட் வந்து அப்ளை பண்ணிக்கிறோம். ஹேண்ட்ல அப்ளை பண்ணி அந்த பெட் மேக் பண்ணல யூஸ் பண்ணிக்கிறோம். ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி திங்ஸ் வந்து கரெக்டா ஃபாலோ பண்ணாலே ரிஸ்க் கிடையாது. இல்லை மார்க்கெட்டிங் எப்படின்னா நான் சூஸ் பண்ண வெரைட்டி பாத்தீங்கன்னா மில்கி மஷ்ரூம். இந்த வெரைட்டி எங்கே கல்டிவேட் பண்ண முடியும்னா ஊட்டி கொடைக்கானல் கல்டிவேட் பண்ண அவசியம் கிடையாது. இந்த வெரைட்டி ஆஃப் நம்முடைய தட்பவெப்ப நிலைக்கு ஏற்றவாறு நம்ம நம்முடைய என்வாயன்மெண்டல் சூட்டபிலிட்டி டு கல்டிவேட் மஷ்ரூம். ஹை டெம்பரேச்சர் மஷ்ரூம் எபோ 32 டிகிரி செல்சியஸ்ல இருந்து அப் டு 40 டிகிரி வரைக்கும் நம்ம கல்டிவேட் பண்ணலாம் அந்த மஷ்ரூம். ஸோ அப்ப நம்ம தமிழ்நாடு ஃபுல்லா நாட் ஓன்லி தமிழ்நாடு த்ரூ அவுட் இந்தியா ஃபுல்லா அதை கல்டிவேட் பண்ணலாம். அந்த அளவுக்கு டெம்பரேச்சர் மட்டும் இருக்கு. ஸோ நமக்கு வந்து நவம்பர் டிசம்பர் ஜனவரி இந்த 3 months மட்டும்தான் கொஞ்சம் நமக்கு வந்து ஏரோட டென்சிட்டி ரொம்ப குறையும். ஏன்னா அந்த பனிக்காலம் சொல்லுவாங்கல்ல, மழைக்காலம் வேற பனிக்காலம் சொல்றது வேற, ஸ்னோ டைப். ஸோ அந்த டைப்ல வந்து கொஞ்சம் ப்ரொடக்ஷன் சற்று குறையும். அப்போ மினிமம் எவ்ரி 10 kg எடுத்தோம்னா ஒரு 6 to 7 kg நம்ம எடுக்கிற மாதிரி வரும். அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு 10 to 20% நமக்கு வந்து ஈல்டு குறைய ஆரம்பிக்கும். பிகாஸ் அது மாதிரி டென்சிட்டி நமக்கு வந்து ரொம்ப குறைவு அந்த சமயத்துல உங்களுக்கு. ஸோ இதுதான் உங்களுக்குடைய. ஏன்னா மூணாவது இந்த மார்க்கெட்டிங் வந்து வெரி ஈஸி. மற்ற வெரைட்டியை காட்டிடலாம். பட்டர் மஷ்ரூமு, ஆயிஸ்டர் மஷ்ரூமு இதெல்லாம் கம்பேர் பண்ணல மில்கி மஷ்ரூம் ரொம்ப ஈஸிலி டு மார்க்கெட். ஏன்னா இது வந்து ஃபைபர் கரண்ட் ஜாஸ்தி இதுல. ஸோ ஒரு எனி வெஜிடபிள்ஸ் ஃபைபர் கரண்ட் இருந்தா நம்ம வெஜிடபிள்ஸ் ரொம்ப லாங் லைஃப் நம்ம கீப் பண்ண முடியும். இப்போ நம்ம ஃப்ரெஷ் மஷ்ரூம் நம்ம ஆஃப்டர் த ஹார்வெஸ்ட்க்கு அப்புறம் நம்ம வித்தவுட் ரெஃப்ரிஜரேட்டர் பயன்படுத்தாமையே we can keep it outside from 3 days வச்சுக்கலாம். 3 days consume பண்ணாலே போதும். இப்போ நான் 1 week 10 days நான் பயன்படுத்துறோம்னா we can keep it in the fridge. பயன்படுத்தலாம், no issue. ஆனா மத்த எந்த வெரைட்டியுமே பயன்படுத்த முடியாது. அப்ப எனக்கு மார்க்கெட்டிங் ஈஸி. அப்ப நான் எவ்ரிடே ஆயிஸ்டர் பட்டன் பண்ணா எவ்ரிடே ஐ ஹாவ் டு செல் இட். அந்த டென்ஷன் நமக்கு இருக்கும். பட் மில்கி மஷ்ரூம் அப்படி கிடையவே கிடையாது.
Right. So I think he said a number of things. I'll try to paraphrase it. So first of all, the choice of mushroom, right? Instead of button or oyster or this thing, he's chosen Milky Way because this is a very conducive mushroom for this environment. Okay. In South, in Tamil Nadu and all, with the high temperature that we have, this mushroom grows beautifully, okay, with the prevailing environmental conditions.
Okay.
So that is one thing. And second thing is the operating conditions where the mushroom is grown to prevent any anti-fungus. He clearly specified how, under what conditions, and how to grow it in a particular process. So that rigor of that process, the training which he gives to the farmers is very important. They follow it. But the most important part is, you grow it, but then who's going to buy it?
Yeah.
Right? What he's saying is that Milky Way mushrooms, because of their lesser moisture, and you don't have to refrigerate them, you just keep them in packets, and there's a demand for these mushrooms. But what he has not said, and what I know about Arul is, now he's also done very good market linkages himself, right? Because he's connected all the dots end to end. He himself is buying back the mushrooms, and he is selling it further, packaging and selling it further, exporting them. Or he's also created other streams of employment. He's, for example, got women self-help group members put up these small mushroom cafes.
Okay.
So these women are actually making mushroom pakodas and mushroom 65, a nice recipe, mushroom soup, and they're selling it in small towns near the government offices where there are a lot of government people working there. He's got these cafes, so he's able to do the marketing, and so everyone is benefiting. So that's how it is done. So when people who are in this call today are hearing this, when we are looking at these kind of initiatives, look at it end to end. So production is important, financing of course, but marketing is so important because you don't want the produce to get wasted. And he's covered all these dots. That's what he's trying to say.
Okay. Wow. So there are quite a few things to consider when going into mushroom farming. We have someone from Jhajjar in Haryana who wants to...
Sukunda, sorry to interrupt. Before that, another important point which Arul possibly he could have added that also is the bed making unit, which is the most critical raw material component which gets supplied to the mushroom farmers. Usually, the way in which the bed making happens is you have the spawn, which is the seed, which gets inserted into a sort of a plastic bag with the hay surrounding it. And it will be done manually by the respective mushroom farmers generally. Okay. But what he has done is he has automated the process also. He has he's purchasing a machinery which will create the bed making unit automatically. In fact, for that also Rangde is funding. Thanks to Rangde, we are getting the funding for that also. That way you are getting a standardized raw material supply of bed making, and the farmers do not have to do anything except the fact that they have to keep them in the shed, maintain them, curate them in the way in which they have been trained, and the harvest would happen. So there is very less manual touch points when it comes to the creation of the bed making itself. That's one of the most significant element when it comes to this kind of in this project actually.
So basically,
so coming back to Rajendra's original question, how do you take out the risk? So there were two risks: production risk and marketing risk. Now, because of this whole, in the production risk is like what Sridhar just explained, this automation is removing that risk. Under controlled conditions. So don't leave anything to the farmer. Just give him everything in a very simple way. And also remove the farmer's risk of marketing because you're doing a guaranteed buyback. Guaranteed buyback. That's removing the marketing risk also from the farmer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really insightful. Thanks so much, all of you. Mahendra has a question. So he's based in Jhajjar in Haryana. So do you have any examples of people doing this in the north? I think he would like to connect with all of you to try and set this up in Haryana.
So my only take on that, Mahendra Singh ji, is that we have to see what mushrooms are preferred there. Now, I blindly, if I go and take Milky Way and make Milky Way work there, may not work there, may not be the choice, may not be the consumer preference. So we'll have to see if it's oyster or button or Milky Way, whatever. And now we have partners even up north. For example, in Lucknow, there is a Indian Institute of Vegetable Research. So see, for example, in Sonbhadra in our cluster in UP, we have a different approach. We are working with IIVR, who's given the spawn production. They set up a spawn production lab. There it's a different type of mushroom. There again, the small farmers are doing it slightly different, but it's more region specific. So I think what I will ask Mahendra Singh ji is to connect with us. Maybe my email you can share, and then we can have an offline email or conversation with him to understand his requirements and connect him to the right partner there and make sure that this whole thing can work. If he wants, he is welcome to talk to Arul Thomas also. But we have to figure out what is the most appropriate intervention for him there.
Great. Thank you so much. And I think one more similar question from Bala Vikram. He wants to do something similar in Namakkal, Salem, Coimbatore. So I think Bala Vikram, if you can just connect with Mission Samriddhi team offline, they will be able to guide you because they're already doing this in Namakkal. So we can talk about that. One interesting question from Rajendra again, Ram, is have you also tried making mushroom powder? Is it a good option to consider at a farmer level?
I would like Arul to answer that because I have some experiences in solar drying of vegetables. And I think that, yes, farmers can be given a solar dryer, and if they're able to dry and make a pulverizer and make powder, and it's enhancing their income at that farmer level itself, why not? But Arul may want to share his experience. Arul, in the question, mushroom powder. நீங்க பண்றீங்க mushroom powder, அதாவது mushroom powder or mushroom soup அது?
இல்ல mushroom soup powder.
Soup powder.
அதுக்கடுத்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா மஷ்ரூம்ல ரெடி டு ஈட் ப்ராடக்ட்ஸ் எல்லாம் பண்ணி நம்ம விவேக் வச்சு லான்ச் பண்ணோம் ஃப்ரம் வேலை காலேஜ் சென்னையில. எப்படின்னா மஷ்ரூம் ரெடி டு ஈட் கிரேவி, மஷ்ரூம் கிரேவி, மஷ்ரூம் குருமா, மஷ்ரூம் மசாலா. 1 year shelf life without preservative.
Very nice.
We already done it.
Without preservative, 1 year this thing, shelf life.
Wow, superb. So I would like to tell everybody on this call that I've just posted the link to the Rangde and Mission Samriddhi Mushroom Fund. You can check it out right now. You can find it in the video description if you're watching this on YouTube. Definitely go there. You can invest, and your investment will go to small and marginal mushroom farmers in Namakkal district, and they will repay you with interest. Your investment will cover the working capital and also the cost for setting up the mushroom beds and the mushroom sheds that these farmers need. Just to get them started, Mr. Arul Thomas and Mission Samriddhi will be hand-holding them closely in the first couple of weeks to make sure nothing goes wrong in their setup. And after that, they are going to have an assured buyback of these mushroom products at a fixed rate, which will help these farmers repay your investment. So actually, it's a win-win proposition all around. You get repaid with interest. These farmers get a real good infusion of credit to start a secondary source of income. And I think right now, Ram, if you could share, what is the going rate for mushroom, or what are the trends you're seeing in mushroom, say overall?
No, actually, before that, I'm glad you brought out this point to give confidence to our investors that you just spoke to Sridhar, our TNCDP, Tamil Nadu Cluster Development Program Director. He's got a team of people across in all our clusters. We have 9 clusters. We have 9 cluster coordinators. So what I'm saying is that we have teams of people in Namakkal. We have a cluster coordinator working closely with Arul Thomas on the ground. And helping to support Rangde in terms of with the farmers, making sure that the whole thing works seamlessly, properly, so that they're able to repay. So that once they're able to repay, then the model can go even more diligently forward, and the investors get their money back, and so on and so forth. So that is the rigor that we are bringing into this project. And for us, if this works, we will take it to other places, and not only in Tamil Nadu, but also in other places where we can do with Arul Thomas. That's one. Your question about mushroom prices, I think Arul himself offers a buyback of Arul evlo kudukringa 180 rupees per kilo,
170 sir,
170 rupees per kilo. So he's giving them a 170 rupees per kilo as a buyback, which is a very fair price. And this probably will translate into at least about 12 to 15,000 rupees per month, Ilya, or 15,000 வந்துரும்.
Profit மட்டும் சார். அப்ப அவங்க after the loan முடிஞ்சு.
So of course, then of course they repay the loan less that, then 8 to 9,000 rupees initially, but over once a loan is repaid, it's all more profit for them, right?
Absolutely.
And once they get better, I think after 18 months, I think anything under 15 to 18,000 rupees per month can be the profit that we're talking about.
Wonderful.
Subhash Patra ji had a question, I think.
Yes. Subhash ji, please go ahead. Subhash ji, you're on mute.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm from Bombay. So what do you call this a pilot project? Why do you call it a pilot project? Because of the production scale, or why you call it a pilot project?
So the reason why I am calling it a pilot, because Mission Samriddhi is doing it as a pilot with Arul Thomas in Namakkal district for our cluster beneficiaries in our cluster, right? But for Arul, it's not a pilot project. Arul has done several of these mushroom projects in Kanyakumari, in other districts of Tamil Nadu, where he's on great terms with the district collectors. He's got government working orders with them. He's been doing it at his own level earlier with individual farmers. But now we are trying to bring a scale to it with Mission Samriddhi, and we are trying to. So for us, it's a pilot working. That's why I'm calling it a pilot.
Yeah. And it's really great to know that, the governments are getting involved in this, and except for the first, the initial investment, they are prepared to invest. That's a very good thing, because if the government's involvement is very, very important that way. Which are the states you have been so far working? You said some 10 states.
Yeah. So Sudhir ji, we are working in Maharashtra. We are working in 2 districts in Maharashtra, in Wardha district and Yavatmal district. We're working very actively in all the blocks in Wardha and Yavatmal district.
Okay.
So we are working in Maharashtra. We are working in Uttar Pradesh in Sonbhadra district, in Bagpat district. Then we are working in Madhya Pradesh in Betul district. Then now we started recently a project in Odisha.
Which place? Which place?
KBK region, the Koraput, Balangir and Kalahandi district, with an organization called CYSD, Center for Youth and Sustainable Development. We have signed up a large project there with working cluster development with the European Union. So it's a tripartite MOU between CYSD, EU and Mission Samriddhi. Then we are working in Assam, we are working in Chhattisgarh, we are working in some capacity in Jharkhand and Tamil Nadu.
Okay. So it's, basically, actually, I have settled down in Mumbai, but I am actually from Odisha. Okay.
Right.
So after my retirement, I keep, going to Odisha and all that. So that's something, that's why I was asking about, the Odisha. That would be really, that's a very interesting project you have mentioned.
So please connect with me offline if you want to be, if you can help in any way with our CYSD. So we in Odisha, we're working in 60 panchayats, gram panchayats in 5 blocks, in 12 clusters.
Okay.
So each cluster is 5 panchayat, 12 clusters, 60 panchayats, 50,000 households, 2.5 lakh population, most vulnerable tribal population. Those 12 clusters are being covered under project for holistic development, nutritional security, their agriculture produce, their rights, forest rights, their better say in local governance. It's all being covered under this project. And strengthening the capacities of the ward members, it's all being covered under that project.
Okay. So that government help is there in Odisha?
Yes. So CYSD is a very strong partner. So they have signed up MOUs with the local district collectors. So the government is helping in arranging training for the ward members, etc. That are all being happening under the auspices of the government. But more importantly, when you have to converge with so many government schemes, see, our experience, I'll tell you this. There is no dearth of government schemes in this country. Whether the state schemes or the central government schemes. The problem is with execution. The problem is with last mile delivery. Now government people, I'm not blaming them. They're doing the job. But sometimes the passion and the compassion and the curiosity which NGOs have, which our people have on the thing, they may not have. So people, organization Mission Samriddhi, which are working on the ground with our own staff, we are ensuring that the poorest of the poor, the widows, etc., who are beneficiaries of the schemes, are getting these schemes. So we do the paper. Sometimes paperwork is so messy, so much of the forms you have to fill up. So we do all that. Our cluster coordinators, panchayat resource persons, So the schemes are going to the people on the ground to whom they really deserve. So
Okay.
same thing in Odisha, the scheme. So now government, you see, so if the government also, there are honest people. So if they want to make sure that the schemes are going and they want, and if some partner is coming forward and saying, okay, we will help you to take it forward, they say, please, they're supporting us.
Okay. Ram, what I will do is actually, I have a lot of questions. I don't want to really take much of your time here. Maybe Sugata can, connect us. Then, then I'll see, how I can really get involved. Basically, I'm a social investor, and I have volunteered myself. I am a volunteer from Mumbai chapter. Okay, but I'm also interested in Odisha because right now I'm in Odisha, and you must be seeing the, the power going in and out. So
Where are you in Odisha right now?
Right now, I'm in Bhubaneswar.
Bhubaneswar, okay. I also happen to have a history with Bhubaneswar. I am also from Odisha. I spent my childhood there, so I have a very fondness for Bhubaneswar and for Odisha. So, but having said that, Patraji, see small things like setting up a school library. It costs us 50,000 rupees to set up community libraries or school libraries, which we are setting up in our clusters. I know I'm digressing from the point here, but when you set up these school libraries, children are now suddenly reading books which they have never read. They're becoming more curious. As social investors, people can come and do these simple things in the villages in Odisha. It will give them a great thing. Because always will not have money for these things. But if people are coming forward and sponsoring these libraries, nothing like it.
Absolutely. So
my email address, I can share it with you. I can the chat.
Yeah, sure. If I can, I mean, if Sugda can share your email and all that, then I'll put her in the loop and I'll do it.
Okay? Sure, Subhaji. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Yes, and I think today we have stuck to Mission Samriddhi's theme of connecting, catalyzing, and taking forward a lot of work. Thank you so much, Ram Pappu and Arul Thomas, for joining us. Thank you so much, Sridhar, and all other members of Mission Samriddhi for supporting us. And thank you all our social investors for joining us today and for asking some really insightful questions. We were glad to tell you more about the Mushroom Fund that we've set up with Mission Samriddhi. Do spread the word in your circles for people who want to invest in rural Tamil Nadu and make real impact on the ground. Thank you for sparing some time on a Friday evening to join us. And you can catch the recording of this session on the Rangde YouTube channel. And we will also be uploading snippets on our social media. That being said, thank you all so much for joining us today. And I wish you a lovely weekend and see you at the next Q&A session that we host.
Thank you.
Next Impact.
Thank you, Sugata. And I think I must congratulate you for doing a fantastic job as a compeer and an anchor, Sugata. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ram.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.